Welcome to the Studio Takeover podcast. I am here today with Pratik Naik. Pratik is one of those guests where you get really excited because he's been in this position of education, and just if you've ever seen his work, you know what I mean when you're just sort of compelled to want to know more. And I feel really lucky that you're here today, Pratik. I'm very excited about this conversation. Welcome.
Thank you, Kat. I'm so excited. I love your podcast, and this is going to be a really fun one.
Oh, thanks. Uh, one of the things that's been a really big topic for not just conversations on the podcast, but I think with the creative community in general, not just photographers, but cinema and art and, all of these creative spaces, is the development of AI. And there sort of seem to be two camps that I've seen. And it's the, oh my God, we're all going to die camp. And the, well, how can we leverage this to, our benefit and the evolution, whether it's business or creativity? And I know that you and Felix Kuhns have, been really sort of early adopters in the AI space and learning how to move through that space. Are you seeing more of a growth of the acceptance of it, and how do we utilize this? Or is everybody still in the land of, oh my God, we're all going to die?
It's interesting because since this whole topic of AI is constantly shifting and evolving, we're also seeing opinions shift and evolve. And personally, I feel like a lot of the confusion or the hatred or even the positivity comes from a lack of answers.
Hmm.
And the reason is there really isn't an answer yet. Like we're still figuring out the legalities of it. Like, for example, you're still seeing like new lawsuits happening every day. You're still seeing a lack of legislation happen. And then like the
Right.
anger towards, lack of movement in that space as well. And so what happens is we're going to see people be very angry about it, be very positive about it. And it's not really going to settle anytime soon, just because this is the first time we've had a technology advance as rapidly as we've ever seen it. Like the second you make an opinion about it, it changes. Like for
Oh, it's
example,
changed. Yeah.
yeah, I remember just I don't know last year people were like, oh, we can't even do hands, and it was like, oh, we're not afraid about it. And then now we're seeing ads in NBA Finals games that are totally AI
Hmm.
generated. And another part of the anger is the fact that you have corporations who then will propel that piece of content, for example, like the NBA Finals ad, where it was a fully AI generated ad and it was pushed to the mainstream media. And then another part of that is the acceptance of it. So then you see the general public not even care that it was made with AI. So it's like,
Right.
as a creative, it really makes you question many things. It makes you question society, it makes you question your own self, your own value as a photographer. It's a clarifying time as a creative to figure out your values and asking a lot of hard questions, and also a test of resolve and being adaptable, because this is the time when more than ever we will have to be able to shift how we do things more than ever, so
Oh,
I think it's a lot
1000%.
of questions, right? I mean, what about your side? Like how are you feeling towards it when you think about it? Like what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's layered, right? There's the photo space. I had done just like an experiment, if you will, on headshots, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of people were coming and they're like, well, if I can get 50 headshots for $50, like, what do I need you for?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let's see what that looks like, right? And I spent the $47 and got the 50 headshots, and like maybe two of them could have passed for me. But I remember in 21 when Midjourney really started to get some traction, like I loved using it just for concept development.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't just stuck in my brain like, oh, that's what that could look like. Right. And then
Yeah.
it helped me bring that creativity to the photo shoot, like with tangible vision instead of just a sketch in a notebook. I think with the education space, that's really where the rubber kind of meets the road with it too. You know,
It's
all
I was gonna
education is
say,
available.
yeah, it's so fascinating. Just the other day, I had a shoot where the model was like, "Oh, do you have a mood board for me that I could, look at?" And in my
Hmm.
head, it was a creative shoot, so I couldn't actually put that down to pen and paper or even find
Hmm.
a reference image because it hadn't been made yet. And I was thinking, gosh, I could use that to at least demonstrate and show the model for confidence purposes. Hey,
Hmm.
this is what it's going to look like. And now, because you have a lot more like the word is prompt adherence. What it means is, when you type something, how close is it going to mimic what you're trying to get and communicate with this AI? And suddenly now I'm able to get a really rough draft of this is what the general concept is going to look like. I typed in the lighting, I typed in the length of the hair, the model's characteristics, and I said, in general, here's what you're looking for. And then she was excited and said, okay, I'm really looking forward to this. It looks really cool. And even she was aware that it was AI. She didn't care because again, the magic was about the process of doing the shoot itself. And the more AI has kind of seeped into my world, the more I've started shooting more again because it made me fall in love with photography more because I was like, I realized it answered a clarifying question for me. The process of photography is what I'm actually in love with. I love being hands-on.
Hmm.
I love making things. The end goal is just a receipt. I always say end goal is a receipt of the product in a creative space, and I love making it. And there's always going to be this, human camaraderie of I love that you spent all this time and effort and energy to create this physical thing. It's like going to the gym. When you see someone who's gone to the gym for a while and they've put on a lot of muscle or whatever it is, you're like, wow, I commend them because off the bat, it took a lot of time and energy to get to that
Right.
point. And, that's kind of what I parallel it to in my head, with what the purpose of that is for me now in my creative journey.
Well, and it joins your team with you, right? So instead of just a random mood board of color profile and
Yeah.
objects, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can see where we're going here. And that doesn't mean that the creative process stops at, okay, these are similar, okay, we're done, right? Like you
Yeah.
can keep going
Yeah.
and evolve that. Um,
Yeah. The tangents of it all. Yeah.
the tangents for sure. AI is funny because I was definitely, like, uh-oh, we're getting really into like Terminator territory and all of
Yeah.
that. But on the same token, I think it's also forcing creatives, business owners, and educators to really look at the experience that they're providing.
Yeah.
Because in this space with sustainable pricing, it is about not just the byproduct of that creative process, like the tangible evidence of that thing that I've created out of nothing, but
Hmm.
also how you make people feel. And you can't get that feeling
Right.
just from, this one prompt, right?
No,
It's about being
absolutely not.
cared for.
Yeah. And if
Um,
it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. And we've had at least 4 years now to, see what that looks like. And you're right. People are still coming to you and I to get their portraits taken, and it is a physical experience. And you can't, like we've talked about this before, but you can't AI a picture of your baby and be like, that's my baby,
right.
like that doesn't, you gotta have a real photo. But I don't want to ever sweep the negative aspects of it under the rug either. Obviously, there's economic impacts, and there's a whole range of topics that are also bad, and that's why I call it the biggest double-edged sword ever. It's just
Ever.
there's a lot of positives, a lot of negatives, and at the second you land on where you're at in that world, the sword swings another direction, and suddenly we have a new set. So it's okay to, what I want to tell people is it's okay to not know for sure where you stand right now fully, and it's okay to keep changing your opinion based on how things evolve. Like another example being like water consumption of AI. Everyone talks about that, but then
Hmm.
also what happens is as time goes on, these processes become more efficient and are less demanding, and hopefully, it progresses towards a position where it requires even less resources and is more efficient than ever. So we don't really know the long-term effects based on what is currently present right now because it is shifting so much. So it's a very interesting time, and it's okay to be conflicted, and I am also very conflicted in so many different aspects of it, and it's okay.
Well, and there's something to be said for the juxtaposition of it too, right? How can that questioning, right, compel us to think more critically about the impact that we want to have instead of
Mhm.
just getting in the car and playing with Midjourney and now, the
Yeah,
computer generation and all of the things, and then going on to ChatGPT and, ripping this content, and, it it sort of forces us to look at the footprint that we
hmm
have,
yeah,
and in all areas, not just in, okay, I'm going on Facebook, what's the footprint there, what's the environmental impact to Meta, what's the environmental impact to Walmart, but those things are okay, right? And I don't know
yeah,
what the difference is between them, like I haven't
yeah.
I haven't looked into it, right? But it's not all bad, it's not all great, but at some point we do have to look at, how we're contributing to that footprint,
hmm
uh, which I think is something that most of us have like heard about, but not necessarily dove into.
hmm That's true. It's 100% true. Like I was looking at, there was a recent article by OpenAI about the water usage per query, and it's like a fifth of a tablespoon or something. And you're like, oh, it was a lot smaller than I thought. But then I was thinking, okay, if that's the case, then what's the water usage of their data servers? And then where does the water go? It doesn't get yeeted off of Earth, right? Like it stays in Earth in a closed loop cycle. It's still there.
Right.
But then it made me learn about the process of where's the water going? How much is it using? What's the projected rate in the future? Where is it getting its water from? And then I was like, oh, but then how does that relate to like when I take a flight, to a conference? How much water
Hmm.
did that use? And so you're right. It opened my eyes a lot for environmental purposes too. So very interesting
Yeah.
topic.
Well, and how can we be more conscious just in our everyday lives, for all of the decisions we're making, not just because AI is a hot button topic, but like,
Yeah.
oh, well, what other ways can we, really take into consideration the impact we have? Because, I
And
mean, I don't know about your parents, but mine, I grew up in the 80s, and we were in the Oldsmobile, like burning gas down the street and smoking
yeah.
cigarettes in the car and like windows up. Like, what's the environmental impact there, right? And that was every parent, and no
Yeah.
shade to my parents, love them to death, but we just didn't know any better until we did. And then you can make different choices.
Yeah.
Um,
Being educated really does help.
yeah,
That's why I do
it
these
does.
podcasts so that people are like, oh, let me start thinking about ways that I can make a difference or look into it.
Absolutely. Or just simply learn more or learn a new way to consider something. Because
Yeah.
do you remember when Jurassic Park came out
Oh
in the
gosh, yes, I
90s?
do.
And you remember how upset everybody got over all the CGI?
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was this
And
big backlash over Jurassic Park CGI and just it's not real and all
yeah.
this stuff. And it was like, and now it's like you watch it and you're like, man, that CGI is not good. That is not good.
And what's amazing is like a lot of Jurassic Park had so much practical effects, so they did such a good marriage between the practical effects of the dinosaurs
Hmm.
and like the CGI versions of it. And now it's funny because you look back at it and we don't think of like CGI as like cheating anymore. It's more like,
Right.
oh, how can we use it as storytelling? Where it gets annoying, and I think this parallels to AI too, is when CGI is used as like a crutch or it's overly done or it's poorly done and you're just like, oh, it's really terrible. And
This is
and
not good.
this is not great. But then you have like films like Avatar, which is fully CGI, and it's like the biggest grossing film ever. And it goes to show you one thing. It's not necessarily about the technology used to execute something, it's about the vision behind it. So if you're
Mm.
intentful with it, if the effort is still there, regardless if it's AI, CGI, whatever the medium, the intent and the message will always trump the everything else. That is always how it plays out. And I'm noticing the same thing with AI now, where we're starting to see like AI short films where people who have really brilliant ideas but don't really have the team to execute a full budget production are actually creating little short films that have a really beautiful message and idea, and they still editing it and putting it together, and it obviously is not going to take as long or is not as much talent to make it. But it's interesting to see what happens when everyone's minds are almost untapped and can access a way to visually communicate what's in their mind in a way that I've never seen before, and it's really fascinating. And my hope is that it also gets people like that who are now inspired to be or express themselves to then like want to combine that with photography and combine that with understanding how photography works or cinematography works, because then they can combine all these elements together and push that
To
craft
be
forward.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
My
my hope.
friend,
Like it just bridges everything together.
well, I think it's just another layer of that bridge, right? Like
Hmm.
to be able to be more creative, to be more impactful. My friend Carrie Krigler, she's a founder of a business called Optica. And they, early adopters, but in the advertising space. And she came from the fashion world. She was a creative director. I forget the name of the designer, but she was there for like a decade.
Hmm.
And so she's really been working like with ESPN was one of their big contracts, but for licensing supermodel imagery, right, for the models to be used in AI advertising. So like that ad you were talking
Mm.
about earlier, so that the models are still getting paid and they're able to leverage that notoriety, I guess, with the models, but without the overhead of all of the plane rides and all of the things. And she's been really like clutch in making sure that it's done ethically to leverage the AI to expand on, just the ability to market. One of the things that I built the studio on here was around destination work and like go to
Mm.
Paris and show up for your brand, in front of the Eiffel Tower or in Las Vegas at the Neon Museum or in New York on the rooftop. And it's not really even necessary anymore, right?
Mm.
Because we have AI that we can drop in and just mimic the lighting that we're shooting on a seamless and bring them together. So you could be, on that gondola in Venice, Italy, or insert thing here, uh, and it just changes the landscape of what's possible. And I think we're going to see some real creativity come out with it just by going down on those tangents, right? Like those rabbit holes to see what's possible. Um,
Yeah,
and that's what I'm excited for.
for sure. In and the thing is like my mind goes in a million different directions, obviously, and we don't know what we don't know is what my philosophy is, and the thing that I tell people is stay adaptable, keep an open mind as much as possible because the opportunities will come in that space mentally, especially when it's easy to feel one way or another. I think it's still important that no matter what position you have, definitely keep an open mind because that is going to be the most important thing, going forward is being able to see how you can leverage these things for yourself, whether you want to or not, or at least keep learning. Because, if you don't keep learning, then, even a couple of days makes such a huge difference in this space of creativity and AI and all this stuff. So that's my that's my biggest takeaway.
Well, and the creativity of it, like let's focus there for a minute. Like the process of creation. Um, I don't know about you, but when I sort of start to really find a groove when I'm shooting, I stomp.
Really, I
Yeah,
love
I'm
that.
like a donkey almost, just like stomp my foot. And my makeup artist, she always laughs. She's like, "No, no, that means you're doing well. Like cat's in a zone, right?" But is there a favorite part of that creation process for you, or is it literally just the reaching for unknown? Because I feel like that's my where it is for me because I have this abstract because I don't see it
Yeah,
until it's in front of me.
yeah,
I just
the
have it
realization.
there.
Hmm. I love that. I think uh, on my spectrum, I think it's similar to yours, where I have this vision, general idea in my head, and working with it feels like I'm working with like a collaborator to say, okay,
Hmm.
show me what this looks like, and show me what that looks like, and the process of discovery of communicating with this thing that the better I am at communicating with it, the better results I am getting from this entity or this thing. Because it
Sure.
right now I don't know what it is. For me, I feel like it's this entity literally that I'm talking to that can understand me, but it can only understand me to the extent of my ability to speak English or to communicate in the language of my choosing. And it has coincidentally made me a better communicator because now I'm seeing, oh, if it doesn't understand what I am trying to say, chances are that I'm not being coherent enough. Because the
Mm.
second I clean up my language or elaborate on what I'm, elaborating on, it does better. And so suddenly I look back at all my other communications that I've had with people, or sometimes even times when when I'm trying to communicate with someone and they don't fully understand what I'm saying, I'm left with a conundrum of, is it that I'm not saying something correctly or they not understanding it correctly? So there's a lot of broken chain of communication that is not apparent when you talk one on one with someone, that immediately is clarified when you talk to something like ChatGPT, when you're like, oh, now I see that A, I
Oh.
did speak clearly. It understood exactly what I was saying, but it wasn't, received to the other person the same way because they couldn't comprehend what I was talking about. So it's taught me to A, to be a better communicator. And then secondly, because of that, using creativity, as we mentioned, I'm able to get more interesting results. It's almost like going down this interesting rabbit hole of what's in my head. How far can I go inside my own mind by using AI, to go further into AI. So it's more like a
Mm.
reflection of myself. It's AI has become like a mirror of what's happening internally, and being able to communicate with it and seeing what's in there has been really fascinating.
Huh.
And just the process of learning for me has always been exciting. I've always loved learning about new topics, learning about things that I couldn't easily discover. And now I have something where I don't feel like there's a roadblock. For example, I was painting my studio space that I'm in now just the last few days. I've put that off for probably 3 years because there's so many nuances that go into painting. Like, for example, what type of brush roller do you need? What type of protection do you need for your flooring when you're painting? When you go on YouTube, there's a million different options, so you stop. Same thing with retouching. When I did the retouching education, my motto there was, let me simplify it, be very straight to the fact, and show you exactly what you need so you're not confused by the million different techniques out there. And similarly, because of ChatGPT now, I was able to say, hey, what steps do I need in order to get from point A to point B? Or if I was stuck at any point in the process, I would then ask it and say, okay, I'm actually done with my roller brush. How should I clean this up? Should I do this now? I actually have to paint again tomorrow. Do I need to, how do I take care of this brush right now? I don't know what I would need to type into YouTube to get those really specific questions about my situation, but because I was able to be so personalized, I could get through it step by step. And suddenly, I'm doing so many things now that I've put off for years because I don't have that information roadblock anymore. And I've never been able to do that as readily as before. So it's played a role in creativity for me in so many ways that I didn't realize. So if you're somebody who's inquisitive and has really interesting questions that have never been addressed or you've never been able to find it, it's a good way of using it as a tool for yourself to propel yourself even further than you are
Well, and
now.
to get out of your own way, right? Like, oh, well, I wouldn't
Mm,
even know how to find that on YouTube. So I'll just, it might come up another time. It's not a priority,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
having something like, ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever there at your disposal just to play around with the language to see how can I be more clear.
hmm
Like
There was
that's pretty cool.
a funny, I don't know, it was a meme or video I saw where somebody said, like, if you are a naturally intelligent person and you're very inquisitive, you will use it to come up with very interesting ways of helping you in your life. But on the other hand, if you're not, and you might use it to just like make, you know, just like random photos and use it for no good reason at all. And it got me thinking, like, it really does change the disparity of how people use it, or like how far people get with this tool, just based on where you are as a person. So if you don't have any interest of using it or don't have a good need for it, you're going to use it for basically the most useless things ever. But if you are somebody who has a definitive problem and can extrapolate that and find solutions that are extremely clever, it's going to propel your life much further like a rocket ship. And that got me thinking about my own personal uses, you know?
No, absolutely. Because, they say you can only see things as clearly as you know yourself, right?
Hmm.
Because the way we receive information is based off of our own perception of the world, right? So the same thing can be true for just the simple mechanics of ChatGPT, right? Like if we don't have the wherewithal to think in such a way that allows us to be curious,
Hmm.
then what we will deem its use for is, okay, how do I write this agreement? Or,
Yeah.
like just simple outline blog post kind of stuff versus, trying to just answer more interesting questions because our curiosity is way up here instead of down here.
For
So
sure.
that's neat.
You
That's neat.
know where this all like ties together perfectly is that when you think of both sides, right? Like on one side, you're like, oh, if you use ChatGPT, you're, consuming a lot of water. And on the other side, you're killing the environment. On the other side, it's like, okay, I can see the extreme potential of this tool to benefit my own personal life and maybe lives of others. So it's made me more thoughtful about how I use it. So I'm not going to be just using it for everything willy-nilly. I literally use it when I'm like, oh, very particular about what I want as the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be sitting there all day generating images just for fun, like for 8 hours a day, right? Like I'll be using it very thoughtfully, and that's where the information part comes in, where you're aware of both sides, and then you can make your own decision about how you'd like to utilize it. So that's
Well,
kind of
because at
what
the
my
end of the day, we're still responsible for that impact, right? But
Mhm.
I think even just having like that intention set, more thoughtful about even the prompts that we use,
Mhm.
right? Because remember, like I at least for me with Midjourney, it was like, oh, what's a prompt? And like you just click through, and next thing you know, it's 4 hours later, you've generated 50 images. It's still not quite what you want, but you're trying to figure out how to be more clear with the prompt with your
Yeah.
language. And it was just kind of this like, oh wait, I just killed like 47 children in another country with this thing, like I
Yeah.
gotta stop.
Yeah.
And I think if we approach more of our lives with that intention, uh just even having that clarity, so instead of taking a tool or a process or a system for granted, having that intention to be really thoughtful about how we communicate and what we want out of a situation and why are we there? How do we get there? Right?
Mhm.
And I think that really will have a much larger impact and ripple effect than we anticipate if everybody that's leveraging this tool can sort of think about it from that perspective, because it's not just with that tool that we're that thoughtful. It's okay, maybe I take the train today instead of drive my car, or
Mm.
maybe I don't take the bath and I just take a quick shower, and all of those areas. How can we be that thoughtful and that intentional
Mhm.
to get what it
That's
is that
true.
we want out of a thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's
That
very
butterfly
true.
effect.
The butterfly effect, right? Absolutely. It
Yeah.
definitely does play a huge role. It's like the gym analogy, it's like when you go to the gym, it's not necessarily like you're trying to make a change in your physique per se, but like even the mental strength you get from
Mm,
just the practice of going, and
yeah.
butterflies affect into everything, like, oh, I went to the gym, okay, I can do that, so then I can respond to this email, and so I can, clean
Right.
the house and all this stuff. So
Well, and like you feel more energetic. So now, okay, I didn't just go and just work out for the sake of working out, but now maybe I'm not going to have that glass of wine.
yeah.
Or you know what, I'm not going to smoke anymore. Or I'm not going
Yeah.
to do these other I'm not going to eat garbage. I'm going to make a nutritional choice. Like everything
Yeah. Yeah.
has an impact, right? Every choice we make. And whether that impact is for us or for other people, like that's what needs the consideration. Which is
Yeah.
why I think having that intention, and it just allows us to see maybe a little bit more openly about,
Hmm.
because we get so like caught up and like just in, this is my world, this is my experience, this is what I'm doing, and da da da, and then you look
Yeah.
up and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, oh, they don't even notice me right now. What's happening?
Right.
All
Or
these problems don't exist.
they didn't exist. I was busy over here.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get into relationships and all of that. But uh, going into the space of just having the appreciation of the impact that we do have with every decision that we make and how it impacts us and
Hmm.
how it impacts the lives of other people. Right. I talk a lot about that just in, building confidence. And I'm sure you've seen this. Like when you
Hmm.
photograph someone and you watch them kind of go from like apologizing when they walk in the door and they're really nervous and kind of anxious and to like stepping in and being cared for. And now all of a sudden you've had the photo shoot, you've gone down the creative adventures and they're really appreciative. You're really appreciative. They leave. They're nicer to their family. Their kids are nice to their teacher, and la la la. Like all because someone took a moment to just be cared for a bit and appreciate who they are in their world.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
there's so much more than just a photo shoot. Right? And
Yeah.
it's how
So
that
true.
impacts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and I don't ever want to also sweep the negative aspects under the rug too, because we don't know where the future is going to go. But all we could do is, kind of hope that it does go in a more positive direction as time goes on, and hope there's more legislation that passes, that it's more controlled, as more accepted it gets, and the more mainstream it gets. And there's still so much happening. Like right now, Disney is going after a lot of AI companies, trying to protect their IP and copyright, and those cases will also set a precedence for how things move going forward. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, we're still in the learning phase of what's acceptable, what's not, what society approves
Sure.
of. Will they? I mean, we're still gonna see like a movie made a lot with AI, and then we're gonna find out. Well, if depends on how it's done. Are people gonna respond negatively? Will there, people, will they go? Will they support it? Will they not? And that'll also change how things run and operate there too. So there's so much learning to be had there.
Well, so much learning. And even when we're talking about legislation around it, was it Tulsi Gabbard just fed all of this like super
Yeah,
confidential information into
yeah,
ChatGPT just to get an analysis instead of having to read it? And you look at the legislation around that because I've had students tell me like, oh yeah, and we put all of your course material into ChatGPT so we could make a da da da. And I was like, what? And that got
yeah,
me thinking, like, well, I mean, everything's out there. It's on YouTube, it's on my podcast, like they're not paying, yes, for the information, but they're paying for the accountability and the experience and, that support to grow into who they want to be.
yeah.
But what does enforcement of that legislation look like? And then
Right.
what is
Yeah,
that next layer? Right. So is it, okay, so we put all these confidential documents and just made them available to everybody on the planet?
for
Like,
sure. Right. And it
all right,
also
so now.
exposes how slow the process is. Like maybe this will be
Mm-hmm.
a time when you're like, okay, the process legislation is super slow. Maybe it's time we need to figure out how to speed this up so that future laws, not just AI related, can be acted upon more with immediate fashion because the times have changed and it needs a reciprocal speed of
Right.
pace in order to accommodate the state of action that's needed. And
Well, and then the question comes like, well, how do we speed that up? Is AI an opportunity there to speed that up so that, our systems and processes are dated, so maybe this tool would be good here. And then you're just like, okay, this is getting silly, right? So,
what's funny about this whole thing is humans by nature, I think we're designed be to be more efficient as possible. So like
mhm.
the second something comes out, like the iPhone, right? I don't know, any technology comes out. The first thing we think of is what do we hate about it? Why do we hate it? And like what do we wish that was better? Right? Same
Sure.
thing with cameras. Like same thing with photographs. Anything you put online, people are critiquing. But because it's in us as humans to be more efficient about every single step of the process. So by nature, it almost feels like this whole AI thing was an inevitability of human nature. Like we would have come to this conclusion at some point in time just because of how our DNA is coded and how we're constantly looking to be more efficient about things. Like it wasn't enough to have Grammarly and spell check where it would take your own information and make
Right,
it
right.
perfect. with grammar and English, like, how can I write faster? And I kid you, like the second, even with AI, it's not going to end there. It's going to be like, how come, why is ChatGPT too slow? How can I get access to it faster? The question most people will probably ask is not, how can we stop it, but more so, how can we improve upon it? And
How do we
I
improve
feel
it?
like that's this theory of it was an inevitable thing that we are here, and regardless of when the timeline would have happened, now later it was going to come to this point at some way or form.
Well, I think 1000%. I mean, if it weren't like we wouldn't have been dreaming it up 50 years ago. Look
Right?
at
Yeah.
Blade Runner and all of that. Like
Right.
imagination eventually comes to fruition because that's what we do with imagination. We create
Yeah.
habits because it saves calories,
Yeah.
right? And so that keeps us alive. That's just lizard brain stuff right there.
Ah,
And
it all
so
comes down to calories.
always, always calories, right? Like, but then you
That's
return
the
that back onto the water consumption, then it's like, wait, environmental impact, save me my workout today.
oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
But it shows you that, like you said, imagination you have to be careful what you imagine. And the future belongs to the creators. Like the
Mhm.
future really does belong to those who put their imaginations out there in the most visceral fashion. Like if you want to make a difference in society, it shows you how powerful creativity is and how powerful imagery is, whether it's photography, whether it's whatever tool you're using. Get your vision out there. Like if this is your inspiration to make a difference in the future, let's say that you feel helpless, like, oh, I don't know how to make a difference in the future of how things are going. Creativity can be definitely the way to do it for sure. Like it definitely plays a role. Like if, like you said, Blade Runner hadn't exists, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have expedited people's brains. The butterfly effect to AI engineers suddenly
Right? Thanks,
wouldn't have
Harrison
happened.
Ford.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean,
Appreciate it.
even taking it back to Disney, right? Like Walt
Yeah.
Disney, creative, something very small, and realized, what's the quote? People won't remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel, right?
Yeah.
Walt Disney took that from just like animated black and white into how can we create a service around this to scale worldwide to make people
Mhm.
feel really special and amazing and like they were a part of something really special, right?
Yeah.
I think that's for any creator that is whether they're creating a business or improving their own skill sets with something they love to do or a passion project. It's how do you feel when you're in it and how does it make other people feel when they're a part of that with you?
Yeah.
And then you grow the skill sets. Like when I started my business, like my work was not good. Like
Oh, don't say
not good
that,
at
Kat.
all. Well, it wasn't. But I use that as an opportunity to improve on those skill sets and by
Mhm.
making people feel really special and a part of this collaborative process was I able to build this business and feel really good about the evolution of my work and what I was learning. And I feel, whether it's with AI or customer experience or Disney, right? It's about how can
Mhm.
you make the world a better place
Yeah.
and be careful of the cost to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what I'm seeing is it's a tool, but that legislation does need to come into to play and the accountability of it too.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm excited to see how things shape up. I mean, hey, we don't have a choice anyway, whether
No,
what like, so might as well, be curious and stay informed with how things are going rather than putting your head in the sand. For me, the worst situation is putting your head in the sand, like, it doesn't exist. I'm not even going to look at it. Hope it goes well. And I'm going to hate everything that comes from it. That's not going to bode well for anyone right now. Like it's not like any other period in time with technology where you could hope it's going to be slow growing. It's
right.
exponentially growing and changing, and it's crazy. ChatGPT came out like 2 years ago. It's wild to think about.
Well, and thinking about how far it's come since then,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody talks about like Encyclopedia Britannica, like way back in the day, and then it was Google, and then it was YouTube, and now it's ChatGPT, and uh, it's the evolution is real, but the desire for the history, the information, the capacity to either be curious and learn more or find solutions for are never ending, and they're not gonna go away. So you can wait for somebody to show up on your doorstep to sell you 180 pounds of paper that they took trees down for to create, or we can explore, Google or ChatGPT and technology, uh, and what's the impact of those things, and how do we, if we're having this footprint, right? How do we counteract that with other opportunities that we have to support the
Yeah.
infrastructure of that?
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm really curious about is, okay, what can we do to counteract the water consumption, right? Or just like the energetic impact on the communities that are hosting the servers and all of the things. Like, what can we do to solidify that space so that impact isn't detrimental?
hmm And these conversations are very important because no matter where you are in the spectrum, everyone now has the capability of making a difference. So, say for example that you are not a huge fan of it and you're like, I don't want to really use it, but I do want to make a difference. You could use your platform to even highlight other people who are making a difference, in
Mm-hmm.
conservation efforts, or put information out there that you've learned about it that other people might not be aware of. Because we always assume that what we know, a lot of people know, and that's not necessarily true because even in this space, there's so many people have no clue about both ends of the spectrum. And I think if you want to make a difference, it's very powerful to like take portraits of people who are in the space making a difference, and using your gifts there, and using your photography in ways that you might not have used before. So it's easy to leverage what you are good at now to propel a vision or a message.
Well, propel vision, message, but even just simply bring awareness too.
Mhm.
The 40 over 40 campaigns, have been really popular now for probably coming up on about 10 years, because women over 40, women over 50 have just been a marginalized, like ignored demographic. So to bring empowerment back into that space, the same thing is true with, okay, Felix and photographing the astronauts, right? And being a part of that astronaut community and bringing awareness there to honor and appreciate, all of that exploration,
Mhm.
right? And everything it takes to be there. The same could be true in the AI space. That's what I think is really cool with Carrie is she's bringing awareness so that because those likenesses will be used whether they sign off on them or not. So how do we bring those likenesses into that space to where it's used ethically so people are paid for, their careers that they've worked their entire lives for.
Yeah,
And in a way that, is beneficial for everybody involved. Uh, so yeah, the evolution of AI, it's not just an app on your phone or something you Google an answer for. Well, when Midjourney came out, I was like, oh, what's this, right? And just burning through, right? And my
right.
dad's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's an interesting app, huh? Right. Uh,
yeah,
but then like probably a couple of months at that point, like down the line, I was like, oh,
yeah,
I need to hold up. Like,
yeah.
am I setting children on fire? What am I doing with this right now? And but it was just one of those like you don't know what you don't know,
hmm
right? Until you do, and then you can make a different choice. But it's okay. How can I be more intentional with this tool so
For
that
sure.
it serves our evolution instead of our demise, right? So we're not
Yeah, it
in
reminds
Blade
me
Runner
of
land.
like, yeah, we don't want to be in Blade Runner land yet. I like where we're at now. It has made me appreciate the day to day even more. Like I'm doing things that I would normally put off. Like, oh, let me go, get a cup of coffee at that place because I'll work from location, or like let me take a little trip to like Austin for a weekend and let me do this because I don't know how long our current reality will be set in stone. Like I don't know the ecosystem of like our economy, our landscape, the
Hmm.
business that's out there, the opportunities that exist. You know, whatever this time capsule looks like right now is going to shift. It will. It's going to happen. But the thing that's made me aware of is being happy and present day to day more than ever before because I know it's going to change. And I'm now being able to do things that I would normally put off or be scared of or just, because I'm like, oh, it'll be there. I'm like, I don't know if it's going
Hmm.
to be there. So let me go and do the thing. Let me go and try this out. And it's given me a thought about that. Like, what are the positive aspects of it that are not as obvious? And that's one of them.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Like
you should just
just bringing you
think
into the
about that.
present.
Yeah, like really focus because that's what we do as photographers anyway. Like we are
Hmm.
photographers a lot of the times because it allows us to focus on the now and it
Hmm.
pushes us into it even though we don't feel like it. Maybe we're thinking too much about the future, about the past, or I wonder what he thought about what I said earlier and I wonder what's going to happen about that later. It doesn't matter. Like you're taking a picture about right now and you forget about everything else and you love that about photography because that's what it gives you. And I think this is what it also gives you more chance to focus on the present that's outside of your lens. That you can be focused about now without thinking about, do I need to take a picture to be focused?
The
And you
periphery.
could just be a photographer without actually having a camera in your hand. That's the way I've been approaching it recently.
I dig that a lot. Like that 'cause I mean, how many times have you heard any insert guru here talk about like the powers of now, right? You can't worry your way out of the future and you can't regret your way out of the past. Like
Yeah,
now is the time. And so with things that do shift so quickly, if I
yeah.
think back to, what my parents' life looked like when they were children growing up, right? And just how that must have seemed so fast paced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if we'll bring, Michael J. Fox into the equation with Back to the Future, right? And like you show up to the future and George Jetson and then all the things, like it's gotta seem really wild. And you're gonna look back eventually until you
Yeah,
can't and remember well. So do
totally.
you want to look on that and say, man, I'm really glad I stayed home that day and didn't connect with those people? Or, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And this is not even bringing to the equation about like the scientific breakthroughs AI is going to bring. Because so far we've only talked about like, okay, how is it going to impact us, our lives,
Mm-hmm.
photography, climate change, whatnot. But we don't talk about like, okay, right now there's testing about how AI is fast pacing uh, drug creation, where it's solving things
Oh.
like diseases, it's solving like aging. It's thinking
Mm-hmm.
we are going to have conversations about, do we want to live forever or not? Is it a choice? Because it will become a choice where we decide, do we want to live forever or do we want to age naturally? Do we want to have a robot in our house helping us with all of our chores or do we not want that to happen? And those things will be available to people. And so those questions, those things are also rapidly evolving simultaneously,
Absolutely.
and
The
so I
evolution of
imagine
the
that
Roomba is
the
here.
Roomba, yeah, the big brother of the Roomba is coming. It'll do your dishes and get you a tissue and you sneeze and all kinds of stuff. Like
Well,
there's
it's
the robot
interesting.
marathons and stuff. Yeah.
There's a friend of mine, they work at this company that's an engineering firm for biomedical pharmaceutical equipment. And so they've had like this big order in. And so in May they produced half of it, and June they're producing the other half of it. But it's like this, $1.2 million order for all of this equipment for Gemini, right?
Mm,
For this medical research, for this thing. And like Google was just like, pencil whip the check. And I had to think about that and be like, okay, how is AI impacting this? Because it's not just for Google, it's for Google and Gemini.
yeah.
So man, I want to see what's on the other side of the receipt of that gear, right? Because that's
Mm,
built here,
yeah.
right? And like, where are they
Yeah.
taking that? Because a $1.8 million order just
Yeah.
on equipment that's for one piece of the puzzle, right? That doesn't include the
Yeah.
research team. That doesn't include the rest of the product. It's just this one functional piece. Uh,
Hmm.
like we're not prepared for
No.
how quickly this is going to move. So being present in the moment, like it sort of has to be the priority.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna look back and be like, oh yeah, just 5 years ago, I remember when blah blah blah. And it sounds crazy to say, but if you
Yeah.
just look back 2 years ago, it was the infancy and we're still in the toddler phase. And so go out there, have your coffee, go take a trip, do that photo shoot, express your vision that you wanted to do, write that book you wanted to write, like create the poem you wanted to do. Don't be shy, like there's no time to be shy, like just put it out there, literally. Like now's
Yeah.
now's the time.
There's the title, Pratik. No time to
Now's
be
the time.
shy.
No time to be shy.
That could be
That's
taken a little strangely. Wait.
yeah, we gotta put parameters on this.
Yes.
It depends on who's receiving the message. I feel like this community
Presence is
here,
now.
safe space. Yeah.
For sure. For
Maybe not
sure.
to maybe not to the general public.
Awesome. Well, Pratik, thank you so much for being here. I have so enjoyed this, and especially since we've sort of gone outside of the norm for conversation, not just in the industry space, but with a perspective that maybe people can glom onto from different standing points. Because it is an exciting time, but I'm sure for a lot of people feels really overwhelming. And I think the more we can normalize the conversation and the curiosity and the intention, uh, the more we can step forward into, the future uh, with some conviction and some clarity. So
Thank you,
appreciate you,
Kat.
sir.
No, this is really wonderful. I had a good time with a little fireside chat here, and just wanted, people to know that it's okay to have a lot of questions about things that you're unsure of or scared of, and keep looking out there, learning, researching, and know that things will change. But it's important to keep your mind open.
It absolutely is.
Thanks, Kat.